Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Shadow of the Hawk. If you could tell that I'm wearing the same shirt as last video, that's because I've got a moment. I'm recording a bunch of these just to flash upload over the next couple of days. I'm probably going to make another 2 or 3. These are just quick couple minute videos of different things I want to review. One of those things, Kings of the Wyld. If you know me in my personal circles, or you have tuned into a few of the different Merry Madnesses, I think also I might have mentioned it on Legion Talk last Monday. By the way, if you don't watch that already, every Monday they do a Game of Thrones stream where they break down each episode, talk about it. Go check it out. It's really, really dope. Had me on one Monday. Might get invited to a few other Mondays. We'll wait and see. But so, Kings of the Wyld. What is it? It is the first book in what is referred to as the Bands saga. Now, I just was getting some books at Barnes & Nobles. I saw that on the shelf, and I'm like, hey, I'm judging a book by a cover. That looks fucking sick. And then I had it sitting in a closet for a couple of weeks, and then I pulled it out of the closet because I wanted to read something, and I read it, and I finished it in 2 days because it was fucking diabolically amazing. So, the general premise is a group of old, washed-up mercs have to get back together for one last job. And that's the bit I'm going to say about the story. I'm going to get into the world now, then I'm going to do a sort of quick summary synopsis, plot synopsis of the story, which will be heavily spoilered, so you're going to want to tune out if you actually want to read the book. I highly recommend it. So, the world itself is very interesting. It's very D&D-esque. It's not quite D&D. There are a few, magic doesn't really work the same. Magic is actually stronger and weaker, depending on your in certain ways. And then also, it's very much like a D&D type world with realistic connotations. What do I mean by that? Well, so the monster hunting bands and stuff like that, they go out and they kill shit. If you do that for long enough, there's not going to be much shit left to kill. So, or the stuff that there is left to kill is going to be so fucking dangerous or so fucking far off that the people who want quick chances at glory aren't going to be able to really do that. Kings of the Wyld takes place decades after the height of the bands, going out and doing D&D adventures, killing dragons, fighting trolls, hunting down ogres, all that stuff, and they did a really fucking good job. So you've got this world now where the new and up-and-coming heroes are importing monsters from different parts of the world and fighting them spectacularly in these great arenas. It's also a world where, there is like a level of realism to it. You've got random teenagers gather together with their granddad's sword and think, hey, we're going to be the next big thing. Or monsters are... You talk about monsters the way that a medieval person would talk about wolves. Like, oh, we thought we saw a centaur on the edge of the woods. Yeah, that's a real big thing. And then also, sentient monsters are treated like you would expect sentient monsters to. If they're useful, they're kept around. If they're not, they're killed. Which is a really fascinating thing to think about. And also, just like the application of different monstrous things is really interesting. Like, there are, like the main character, he has this shield that is made out of the skin of a treant that he killed. And so it's really fucking tough. And that's just one of the examples of the different magic items that are in the world. It is really, really interesting. On the magic, in some ways it's weaker than D&D, because wizards can't just snap their fingers and conjure a fireball and blow up a town. But, one example of how they are stronger is the main character, for example, makes use of, not the main character, one of the characters makes use of this wand. And he blows the wand, a flute. He plays a flute, and all spears within a certain range turn to snakes. Which is like, you could disarm an army right there. That's pretty fucking strong AF. But he's not like shooting laser beams out of his fingers. So it's very much weaker in the sense that magic is not... It's not as, grandiose or crazy, and you can't really just do it as much yourself. It's also a lot rarer than in D&D. But if you can do magic, and you know the right kinds of magic, you could be a fairly lethal force multiplier. Is that everything? Yeah, I think that's a really good synopsis of the world building. So getting into the actual story. The main characters of the story are known as Saga. They're an old, washed-up mercenary band that separated due to various reasons. One dude having to go try to save his husband from effectively the Black Death, but worse, Black Death times cancer. One dude settling down with the queen at a kingdom. One dude settling down because his wife wanted him to stop being a violent monster hunter. One guy getting locked up because he killed someone, and then the last dude just kind of like going home and then having a life because he went home. And then the headman of the group, Golden Gabe, or Gabe the Lion, comes out seeking his friend Clay Slowhand? Slowfist? Something like that. Got his nickname because he was usually the one to get punched in a bar fight. I seeked him out because his daughter had decided to become a merc, and she went out and got caught in the middle of this really, really bad siege. So they have to get the band back together to go fight and get her out of that fucking city. And while they're doing that, they get dragged into various different plot lines. Like one guy, crap, I'm forgetting his name right now. The rogue of the group. His name is slipping my mind right now. But for example, his wife is cucking him. 6 kids, not one of them is his. 7th on the way. And he kind of like, the explanation is really he stopped giving a shit about life. He had retired, he got fat, he got cat-like, just resting all around and stuff like that. And so she found someone more interesting, and they replaced him. And they found someone more interesting, and replaced him. And then on and on and on it went. Moog, his husband, died, sadly. But he continued to risk his own life to create a cure for this virulent disease that you get it, you're just dead. There's nothing you can do. You can't amputate the limb. You're just fucking dead after a period of time. Ganlin is... they managed to buy Ganlin back by fighting a chimera in one of those arenas I mentioned. And Ganlin is... Ganlin's interesting. I'm not going to get into exactly why I really, really like that character. You guys can take a look. You read the book. But so they get the band back together, and they go on this adventure, while also attracting a lot of enemies, and I mean a lot of enemies, on their way. They explore the world. It's very much one of those things that's like, it's introducing you to the world. Different major players of the world are established, the different kingdoms, the different big bands, a lot of world building, like why the world is the way it is, who made the world, also showcasing a lot of magic items, like if I show you the cover again, this up here, Clay Cooper, is Slowhand. That's the shield I mentioned, the really, really good shield. The armor he's wearing is something he steals from someone that basically makes him invulnerable to all damage. He doesn't wear the helmet because he doesn't like helmets, but you can't hurt him. Well, no, let me rephrase that. You can hurt him, you just can't break him while he's wearing that armor. So, really, really interesting stuff there. So yeah, they basically get the band back together, they get a ton of kit, they make a bunch of enemies, and they go on a quest to get Gabe the Lion's daughter out of that city. And then it ends with a climactic final battle between good and evil, because, well, it's a fantasy story post Lord of the Rings trilogy. You gotta have that epic final battle a la Return of the King. And by the way, that's like very... that's scratching the surface. If I had one complaint about the book, is that it kind of crams a little bit too much in. There's a few different subplots that it's like, there's a few different characters and a few different subplots that are in the book where it's like, okay, this kind of adds a little bit too much. Like, there's a betrayal at one point that didn't really need to it happened to be kind of shocking, but then it doesn't really end up mattering by the end, because the person who betrayed them is down to work with them again, and then a few other details where it's like, it's still really good. I still highly recommend it, but just like a few things where it goes on, it spends its time. It's a very long read. There's a lot of content in there. I probably digested some of it not very well, but yeah, it's very well written. It definitely is establishing a greater universe. I can't wait to find the rest of the books in the series, because I would love to read, because there's so many different like cool characters and parts of the world. Like I want to read a book now that's about a new group, like a new band forming up, trying to go into the Wyld, which is like this horrible forest full of monsters and disease and cannibals and shit, and just trying to figure out what's what. And then you just like that first episode of Goblin Slayer where the whole party except one person gets fucking murked. and then that one person joins up with some people who know their shit, and you get like this. I think that'd be a very interesting story. That might already be something that's written. I don't know. This video is longer. It's 3 minutes longer than I wanted it to be. So I'm just going to leave this off here with thanks for watching. Have a good day. See you next time.